Hello and welcome to this edition of Consider This. I'm your host, Charles Lake, and in the last edition, or the last episode, I kind of allured to the fact that the government is blaming us for the way we eat. And I wanted to clear that up and show you. And these documentation is from 2015, 2018, but they only do this like once every 10 years as they go through. They very rarely do it more than that. So I keep an eye out. I don't always catch everything, but I do keep an eye out. So we can go over to the paperwork. And like I say, we're on Patreon right now. And it's $5 a month for 4 shows a month. And we're just getting started. And the information I put out is well worth the money. We're looking to just keep going. We're not looking to make a business out of this, so to say. It keeps me busy and keeps me out of my wife's hair. But I do need equipment and things that are very expensive nowadays, so that will help us get our equipment and keep the website up and so forth and so on. And this is our website, and right now I have downloaded a lot of things to start with. So let's go over and let's get started. And this is the petition that was filed by these medical groups in 2015, and they were petitioned to eliminate 7 or 8 carcinogen food flavorings. And as Mr. Keefe puts here, since 1958, the law has said that if no additive shall be deemed to be safe if it's found to induce cancer when ingested by man or animal. Now, 1958, I believe, is when everything was just grandfathered in that they were using beforehand. They never did any studies on it or anything like that. So they didn't really know what they were grandfathering in when it comes to the FDA. So since 1958, and it took them we'll get into that. So in 2015, and you can read this whole petition, and styrene is one of the chemicals that was in the petition. I showed you last week that they came to the conclusion that in 2018 that they weren't using styrene no more, according to this. Here is the petition from the Styrene Information and Research Center, which is the styrene lobby. And let me bring this up a bit so you can read a little bit closer here. And this is the summary. The Food and Drug Administration is that filed this, well, these people filed this petition requesting that we amend our food additive regulations to no longer provide for the use of styrene as a synthetic flavoring. And this is in 2016. You can see it right here. Okay. So in 2015, the medical people filed. 2016, the styrene lobby filed, and in 2018 the medical groups had to file a lawsuit to get the FDA to move, which is really appalling, because when they filed this petition in 2015, the FDA had 180 days to review the documentation on all these chemicals and do what needed to be necessary. But the FDA decided to sit on their hands for 3 years until this petition was filed. And then they made the decision that went with the styrene research group, that because of the use, styrene has been abandoned. And that's not good, because if it's not taken off the list because it's hazardous, anybody can go ahead and start using it then, because it's not because it was hazardous. So that was a wrong decision by the FDA. We have to hold the FDA's feet to the fire, because this is just appalling. And this is what costs us in medical fees, because I'm sure that the Breast Cancer Prevention Partners and the Center for Environmental Health and all these interests get their money from somewhere. And this is, I don't know where. Okay, so in 2015, the federal government came out and said, and this is from the CDC on disability, 53 million adults in the U.S. live with a disability. That is a very low number, but it might be pretty close, but not. The most common disability type is mobility limitation, defined because people can't walk up and down the stairs. And you can read this. Let me bring it up a little bit so it's a little bit easier for you to read. Like I say, I have dyslexia and I miss words, so I want you to be aware of that. So I bring it up so it's highlighted, and it goes through here on non-Hispanic, Black, and it breaks it down into people, kind of racially divided, and so they turn around and say that it's our fault because we can't walk up and down the stairs. And in 2018, the Health and Human Services strategic goal, 2015, 30% of adults did not engage in any leisure time physical activity. So they're saying that we're lazy. And from 2011, 28.9% of adults had a healthy weight, and the rest of us are fat, obese, so to say. Beyond assuring Americans resources that the healthy, better choice. So they want us to make healthier living choices. And we have no way of doing that because we don't have control over what the FDA is allowing food industry to put in our food. So, and that was, and we'll go back to that in just a minute. So that's where that's at. And then if we come over here to styrene, and this is one of the documents off of the website, exposure to styrene in human causes effects in the central nervous system, such as headache, fatigue, weakness, and depression, central nervous system dysfunction, hearing loss, and neuropathy. Neuropathy you can get with diabetes too. I have neuropathy in my legs, and it's like sometimes it's like your skin is crawling, but when it gets real bad, it's like a swarm of bees landed on you and are stinging you all over the place. So if you have it in your legs, it's hard to walk. So I also want to point out another situation. Women that worked in the plastics industry, they were increased frequency of spontaneous abortions and decreased frequency of birth reported in another study, which means that the child weighed less. So this is another, and styrene increased the risk of leukemia and lymphoma. And my daughter has a friend that's like 23, 24 years old, might be a little bit more than that, but she's going through a real bad bout of lymphoma cancer. And she's over there in New York. And so this is nothing to fool around with. This chemical comes out of the food packaging. Now, I put this back up. This is from BPA, because BPA makes you obese and overweight, which is what they're blaming us for. But if you put these chemicals into our food that make us this way, whose fault is that? Is it our fault, or is it the FDA's fault? And it increasing body mass and insulin resistant, type 2 diabetes, thyroid. So I have to be careful now because I don't have a thyroid. They took it out in 2016 with multiple cancers. And a couple of the cancers weren't even supposed to be in the thyroid. So they watched me pretty closely, and too many blood tests, I'll tell you. But anyway, so the two chemicals that come out of styrofoam, or that come out of our food product or our food packaging, are attacking our body in almost the same way. So we are having problems with that. I'm missing something here. And this is a list. This is a list of this styrene that they say can get into our food supply by other means. Styrene is used as a solvent, and because it's a solvent, it's put in everything. So this is the list, and it's a pretty long list of different ways that, because they have to clean the meat machines, they have to clean this, they have to clean that, and they use these high-grade solvents so that they cut it right down so that there's nothing, none of the fatty tissue left on the slicers or the grinders or anything else. And they use it in different areas, use different chemicals, but they all seem to have styrene in them according to the Food and Drug Administration. So this list is the way that styrene gets into our food without being put there from different food containers. Okay, the other thing I wanted to show you on here is in this here, which is the styrene page, indoor air in principal route of styrene exposure for the general population is indoor air levels. And that's because the furniture that we have nowadays is all particle board furniture, and the floors are made out of wafer board, and all that glues and stuff have styrene in them, and benzene, and several other chemicals. And oh God, it was about 2008 or 2009. It might have been around 2015, but I'm not sure. I don't have much of a memory no more after having 7 migraine-induced strokes. I had a state trooper, New York state trooper, come to me and ask me if I could help him. His mother just bought a modular. She sold her big farmhouse in upstate New York and bought a modular. And she was getting really sick, and the doctors didn't know what to do. And he says, "You do all this research." He says, "How about helping me out?" So I did the research, and I'm going to put that research up in a later, probably maybe the next episode. And it's plants that you can put in the house that actually eat these chemicals. Like I found out the only plant that eats styrene is the spider plant. And if you have one medium-sized spider plant, and believe me, these things grow and they have babies, and oh my gosh, they'll overwhelm you if you let them. But one medium-sized spider plant will take care of 200 square feet of a house, which is significant, especially paints and stains and stuff have styrene in it, and the padding for the rug has styrene in it, the rug has styrene in it. So if you have all the styrene coming out of the floor, the walls, the carpeting, and you have a new baby, it could affect your child. So a lot of kids die from SIDS. They don't know why they die, and this could be one of the things that create parts of SIDS. I'm just an old truck driver. I have no idea, but it seems logical. So if you take like a spider plant, and another real good plant is a philodendron, but you've got to really work with them because they'll just keep growing and growing and growing and putting tentacles all over the place, and they'll try growing into your wall. So I had them in almost every room in the house when we lived in New York, and I had to build little what do you call them? Easels across the ceiling, and we would weave the plant back and forth. And after 2 years, we had the ceiling was nothing but philodendron, and they grew up in off the thing on the container on the wall. It was on a shelf, and we just wrapped it around this easel going across the roof of the ceiling. It was about a foot from the ceiling, and they just grew back and forth and back and forth, and it made a beautiful, but it kept the air in the house so fresh, because at that house we had 2 driveways on either side. And another thing styrene comes from is automobile exhaust, which I explained a little bit last week. So we had a lot of cars going back and forth across the driveway in the summertime with the windows open. You'd get the exhaust into the house. So it would take care of all our situations, and I didn't get too sick, but because of the asbestosis at the end, I had to leave New York, because New York is starting to get a lot of Florida weather. The humidity has gotten so bad in New York in the summer months, and even in the winter months, it's gotten different. That I couldn't breathe over there. It was like breathing underwater. So that's why we left. And let me bring up the website here. And I know I showed you this before, but I wanted to show it to you again. 64% of the nearly 4,000 food additives have no research showing that they're safe for people to eat or drink. And this is from the American Academy of Pediatrics. And they tell you, do not avoid feeding your children off of 3, 6, and 7. 6 is the styrene, 7 is the BPA, bifentanols. So that right there should tell you that we should be, after the FDA, we have to get Congress to move their butt, because, like I said, Democrats against Republicans, that was my first show, and it showed that the Democrats are a little bit better than the Republicans, but the Republicans are out on Pluto. They don't want to do nothing for nobody right now, except for the rich. And this ain't gonna solve the problem of our health care. Everybody wants to bring the cost of health care down, but they're feeding us these chemicals that cause all these health, diabetes and reproductive orders and problems with our kidneys and our brains, and it's making it harder for our kids in school. And I'm going to go through a lot of that, but that'll be, I'm going to put up the plant show next. And like I said, I've already done it. I've got to vet it, make sure everything's still kosher, and I'll put that up hopefully by within the next few days. And I hope this is got you to think about how your health is being ravaged by food that we're eating that really should not be in our stores. And we got to change this, and in order to change it, we got to work together. It don't make no difference if you're a Democrat, Republican, or an independent. I happen to be an independent. I choose whoever it is that I think is going to do the best job for us. I vet them really hard. I go meet them. If I can't meet them, I vet their background. And right now, I wouldn't be able to vote for a Republican. I have voted for many Republicans in the past. But right now, I cannot do that because they don't want to get this stuff out of our food. In fact, they don't even want to stop using the food containers that are poisoning us. So we'll get into that later on. It's been about 24 minutes, so I don't want to take up much more of your time. I'm hoping that this helped you keep yourself safe, and I hope that you keep your children safe. This is everything from top to bottom we got to work on. So I hope you have a very good weekend and week, and take care of yourself. Bye.